Well, my name's Stefan. I'm from Austria. In Hasta, my name's Ventiris. I will be playing in Group A in the tournament with Ecop, Dart, and PhoneTap. And about myself, I'm 19 years old. I finished school last year, and this spring I'm starting to study probably at university.
How do you feel about your recent performance? Does it match up to your expectations?
Well, I'm really happy that I got to qualify. Like, this is the first bigger tournament I'm in, so yeah. At first I didn't expect much, but then I saw that it's possible to make it, so I tried very hard and got through.
There are Ecop, Dart, and PhoneTap in your group. Who do you think will be the most difficult opponent to face?
It's hard to say because I don't really know much about PhoneTap or Dart. Like, I know the names, but I don't really know what they play, and from PhoneTap, for example, I just know that he's an excellent ladder player and nothing else. Like, yeah. And Ecop is in a lot of big tournaments, so really hard to say. I guess it will be hard, but yeah.
Do you think legendaries are key for playing this game?
It depends. Like, some decks, like Sue, for example, or Hunter, don't really need them and are still very competitive and can win tournaments. But control decks are often very dependent on them, and for slower decks, you really need them.
If you were a Hearthstone card, which card would you be and why?
I'll just say the Goldshire Footman, because he's always ready for action.
All right. Well, that was Ventiris there, telling us a little bit about himself, a little bit about what can expect. Of course, Ventiris just joined Aware Gaming with Cypher and Skip, and there's a number of online achievements to his name, but this would really be the first big achievement for him. And I believe we're going to bring you that interview with Ecop very quickly as well. Are we going to go into that now? I'm not sure. Just asking myself. I'm just asking myself a rhetorical question so that when I talk to our producer and you can't hear him, it looks like I'm not going crazy. But here we are. We've got the interview with Ecop here that you may have seen online, but we're going to give you a little bit better known about our reigning champion.
Hello, I am Jan Palis, also known as Ecop from Germany, and my team is Cloud9.
How does it feel to be the defending champion? Do you feel any additional pressure?
No, I don't feel any pressure at all. This is like pretty much any other tournament for me. I go into it with the same mindset as I did in the previous one. Obviously, I have to stomp all the opposition because obviously, as a champion, I have a target my back, and yeah, I just have to crush everyone in front of me, no matter what.
When and how did you first get involved with Hearthstone?
I started Hearthstone after I started Hearthstone pretty much after the WoW TCG died. It was a smooth transition because the WoW TCG died and at the same time Hearthstone started. So I got into Hearthstone very early in open beta, in closed beta actually. And it was a smooth transition because it's pretty much the same game, and I quickly became very good at it. And now I'm one of the best.
There are Dart, Ventiris, and PhoneTap in your group. Who do you think will be the most challenging opponents?
Yeah, all those players are pretty unknown to me because they are not on EU as far as I know. And I know Dart. I know Dart had some pretty good ladder results, and I also faced him in my group in the first HearthStats League. So um, I'm looking forward to face him again.
If you're a Hearthstone card, which card would you be and why?
I would obviously be Leo Jenkins because just like me, he's a loudmouth and just pisses everyone off.
All right, so you can see here the classes for the wrong player names, but they are the right classes, I believe. The classes on the left are for ACOP, and the classes on the right are for Fenteris. And you can see fairly similar lineups, both bringing Mage, Warrior, Druid, and Rogue, Hunter for ACOP, and Paladin for Fenteris on the right. A best of 5, but it is a 2-ban format, and they're going to do the bans in rounds. So they're doing those bans right now. So they'll each do 1 ban and see what's banned, and then they will do a second round of bans as well. So they're each bringing 5 classes here. Obviously, very similar class lineups here. D2 4 classes the same for both sides. What do you here?
It looks pretty standard to me. I'm a little bit surprised that so ACOP's on the left side, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm a little bit surprised that ACOP doesn't bring Paladin because it's a really solid all-around class. But he might figure that it might get banned anyway, especially with 2 bans. Like in a lot of other situations, you would bring a class just to have it banned so that another class could be good. And so, okay. Yeah, so we got confirmation that ACOP is on the left side.
Yeah, they're just fixing that now. It's the wrong way around now, but it is the right name, so we're making a step forward.
we're progressing a little bit, but yeah, exactly. So the 2-ban system is really interesting because you're going to see 2 very strong classes get banned out, and it kind of screws it with what you have left. So it can really kind of change the dynamic of the match, where you're stuck with classes that aren't like what you wanted to go in the first place. But to their credit, they've brought classes which can basically win, a lot of matchups, like basically good.
Absolutely. With this 2-ban format, do you think that the first ban cannot sometimes maybe reveal a little bit of information to your opponent about what kind of archetypes you're playing? So, for example, if either player were to ban Rogue straight off the bat, would that kind of be a strong indication they were playing Mech Mage, or vice versa? Warrior would give an indication of playing Freeze Mage.
Yeah, like you said, as you kind of like implied there, that Mage is really one of the only classes, I guess Druid as well with Ramp and mid-range Druid, where there's actually 2 archetypes. There's absolutely 100% going to be Control Warrior, and it's almost certainly going to be mid-range Paladin, although we've occasionally seen some Control Paladin. But yeah, all the other classes are pretty much set in stone. I guess Hunter, there's like Phase Hunter, and there's mid-range Hunter as well. It looks like we're getting the first ban in. Is that correct?
And indeed,
all right, there we go.
It is the Mage of Ecop that's been banned, and the Druid of Fenteris. As I said, those are flipped down the wrong way. But Druid being banned, Ecop's Druid being banned by Fenteris, probably quite a strong move, a very strong class. And again, Mage, that 2 strongest classes right now.
Well, I mean, I think all these classes are extremely strong. So I think you like literally they made, we'd be like, oh, that makes sense, But definitely Druid. It's just such a scary class to go against, especially if they get a good start. You can just get wiped out by Druid alone. And on the other side, Mage is like it's another class that can snowball out of control, and it's a really strong aggro class. So you're seeing basically, Fenteris just kind of hedge his bets a little bit, and making sure that not all of his classes can really deal with a mage, and getting rid of that right off the bat.
Yeah, well, it's Ecop that's banned the Mage of Fenteris, and as we'd mentioned, the diversity of those archetypes within the Mage, I guess that makes it a little bit scarier in a format where obviously you don't know what your opponent's decks are at this point, and you don't know what archetype it is, you don't know how to pick against it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I mean, solid ban so far. It'll be interesting to see what they ban from here on, or this next coming ban, because we now have. All right, so next ban's coming up. and Warrior and Hunter were banned. So with Mage being a good class against Warrior, and in general Warrior being good against both Hunter and Rogue, he decided to get rid of that. But then in response, not really in response, but Ecop had his Hunter ban, so it was kind of like, you can kind of say that ban phase remaining. We have Rogue, Warrior, Druid versus Paladin, Rogue, and Mage. Rogue is good against Paladin. Obviously, it's a mirror match with Rogue, and relatively good against Mage. Druid being somewhat weak against Paladins, pretty equal with Rogue, and bad against Mage. Whereas Warrior is slightly favored versus Paladin, good against Rogue, and not the greatest versus Mage. So, I mean, pretty even matchup. It'll depend on how the matches get, or how the classes get lined up.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the position of Rogue in the metagame right now, just for a quick second while we wait for this game to get underway. It was really a class that after the Gadgetzan nerf and really the Leroy nerf as well, kind of kicked Miracle out of the metagame. It was a class that was really struggling to find an archetype that fit. And it really feels like they are probably both going to be variants on the very popular Oil Rogue, to be the deck that's re-establishing Rogue as a dominant force, particularly in tournament settings.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of like Oil Rogue, because usually people put two Tinker's Oils in there. But it's kind of like the new Miracle Rogue, right? Like, you're trying to just cycle through your deck and just get through that damage. And what makes it a little bit more consistent than the old Miracle Rogue, in that you basically have more strong minions to work with, and you have more ways to kind of come back in general. But like with the old Miracle Rogue, it was kind of like you were kind of relying on having this one big miracle, and if you can get that off, you. Whereas this is like you have a few separate answers here and there. You can deal with things, and then like having those two big, Tinker's Oil, especially with the Blade Flurries, allows you to just come back into the game. Looks like we're getting to the match right now.
Yep. I mean, just briefly on Rogue as well, but we're waiting for that to really to get started. When we did this a month ago with the Challengers League, the Rogues, we saw very few Rogues, and the only ones we did see were kind of the Dark Wonix heavy top-end Rogues. But really, it feels like we're going to see something a little bit different here. Already the Wild Growth into hand for Ecop on the Druid, and Finteris on the Paladin gets a nice start as well with the Knife Juggler and that Shielded Minibot, and an Innervate as well. Ecop really holding all the Druid Master cards here.
Yeah, I mean, just one last thing on the Rogue. That's probably the one biggest change in the last month or two in the meta, is that Rogue has become like a really, really strong class, whereas before it wasn't at all. But let's just get into this game. We have a reasonable start by Finteris. And Ecop, he has nice ramp options, but he doesn't have anything to ramp into, unfortunately. It's just all spells. He has Sylvanas and a bunch of spells, which is... So he can all.
Okay. Tip of the game there, just a second while we sort some audio, but while we can still see it, looks like it's going to be a swipe coming in there for Ecop very, very quickly. As I turn my camera back on for this brief second. Yep, there we go. So the swipe coming down for Ecop is going to clear the board. And that's exactly what he would have wanted to do for a muster for battle. It's really what you have to do as a Druid in order to be able to deal with that early pressure.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't have that swipe for that muster for battle, it can turn into a nightmare in a hurry. So, yeah, we have the Paladin Shredder coming down, and Ecop immediately started reaching for his Keep of the Grove, but it's actually a pretty bad answer for the Paladin Shredder, because it just kind of dies after it silences it, right? So
but
he's wondering.
He can coin into the Wrath as well, so he could silence it and Wrath it off and clear the board that way.
Yeah, that is true. That is something he could definitely do. So that would be a good answer. It would probably force Finteris to change his weapon to the True Silver. But yeah, I mean, Ecop took a little bit of damage from that start from Finteris, a little bit of fast start. But as we know, Paladin, they put pressure on. They put like steady pressure on through the minions on the board. It's kind of like a Zooey class, but where they deal damage with their minions, but they don't really have any burst. So Ecop can just kind of he doesn't have to worry about that really.
He seems to be leaning towards the Shade of Naxxramas here. And for anyone who watched the ESL Legendary Series tournament this past weekend, Shade of Naxxramas is really a card that's enjoying a little bit of a renaissance. It's fitting into a lot of those oil rogue decks. It's still very prominent in Druid. And Ecop opting to get it out as quickly as possible, and I guess that's what you got to do with the Shade of Naxxramas.
Yeah, I think he's just kind of instead of like you said earlier, he could have gone with the Silence Wrath play, but it seems like he's really just playing it slow, staying patient, and making full use of his mana instead of like throwing away the coin. Because basically, if he uses the coin this turn, he's essentially committing to playing Sylvanas next turn, and that might not what he wants to do. Or on the other end, maybe he wants to just wait for his opponent's board to fill up now, instead now he can play Sylvanas.
The combos in hand as well, but Ecop already getting very low on the Druid, 18 health, and the Paladin could have a lot of healing options. We see a lay on hands there, maybe even an antique heal bot or something in this deck. Ecop's going to have to be very careful to watch out for his life game here.
Yeah, I think Ecop, he's basically playing the greedy. He's going the greedy route and saying like, okay, I can play this a little bit slow. Paladin's not going to burst me down from that high or that high health. So he's taking it slow. But then he kind of like changed course here. He's like, well, I could go for the Sylvanas and be a little bit greedy, but it might be a little bit too greedy. You might start taking too much damage, and then if you start taking too much damage, you have to play pretty much like not very efficiently. Except to go out of your way, start clearing minions. So he doesn't want to get to that point. So and he figures it's a pretty reasonable play. Just go for the keep here. Also, if the Sylvanas gets silenced, it's a kind of a waste of time. It's kind of a waste of 6 mana.
You can see the antique healbot did come into hand there, so already a lot of healing options in the hand for Fenteris. It's going to be really a war of attrition for Ecop if he's going to be able to kill off this Paladin.
Yeah, definitely. Without that healing in hand, that combo in Ecop's hand is pretty dead right now. He needs to find a way to just start. I mean, he can't really deal damage to the face. It's not really going to do much. I mean, he doesn't know that, but yeah, he needs to start just kind of getting steady damage on the board, which means getting control of the board.
One thing he doesn't do is reveal the Shade of Naxxramas. Obviously, with the True Silver Champion up, that's doesn't want to be revealing it at 4 health, but he definitely would have preferred, I think, to knock the Divine Shield off and kill off one of those 2/2s. But it's too dangerous for his Shade of Naxxramas to die off straight away.
This is kind of the problem, even when facing Paladin without that much damage, is that at some point you have to kind of look at your life total, and you're taking extra damage by hitting the shield, not getting rid of minion. If you decide not to reveal your shade, at the same time he's able to take out the 1/1, which could potentially turn into a 3/3. So it's a reasonable decision by him, but he's definitely facing a lot of damage right here, and he's really looking for that second swipe.
Well, Ecop's facing lethal on board right now. Silver Champion. I think Fenteris is considering whether or not he just wants to go for face here.
Yeah, I think it would be the correct decision to go face and just put that pressure on Ecop and make him trade, because right now he can't sacrifice his Sylvanas to steal anything anyway, unless he uses Wrath. But even then he's using kills on Sylvanas, and also he's already used Wrath anyway. So it's definitely it puts Ecop in an awkward situation. So I definitely agree with the play by Fenteris to go face. Let Ecop take whatever he wants. And in general, sorry to cut you off. In general, like if your opponent doesn't have anything great to steal anyway, then you could just like let it go and just not even worry about it. Like if you had 2 big guys on the board and Sylvanas can just like kill one big guy off and then take the other big guy, then maybe you want to like engineer your own trade. But in this situation, it's just fine to let Ecop do the deciding for him.
That's fine. You cut me off whenever you feel like. But we're seeing the Ancient of Lore coming down here for healing. That never feels good as a druid. You always feel like you're taking a step backwards almost in the overall game if you're not able to use those for card draw. And he's gonna have to give up the Innervate here. Is he looking? He's gonna have to use the Innervate to hero power just to take some damage off the board. That doesn't feel like a very efficient turn if you're.
Yeah, and this is a pretty clear example of tempo and pressure turning into card advantage. A lot of times people think like, oh, well, if you go face, it's greedy, and you're basically sacrificing, a lot of what you work for to just try to like put pressure on your opponent. But actually, when you do that, sometimes it allows you to get card advantage. In this case, it's just like it's pretty direct. To Ecop lost 2 cards basically because he had to go for the healing instead of getting the 2 cards. So like it's a direct example of putting tempo turning into card advantage.
Sure, and Fenteris can even in that last turn there is able to trade away the Sylvanas, give over one of his shielded mini bots, and set himself up in a position here with the Doctor Boom. Doesn't even mind giving over the minion. He's just putting himself in such a dominant board position. And what do you do here if you're Ecup? Do you give up your combo to try and clear the board? Do you go for a claw? Do you trade both your minions for the 7/7?
I think if you're Ecop here, you first count the damage. So Fenteris right now has 11 damage on the board. I mean, not counting the boom bots that could go to the face. So unless he has True Silver, he doesn't have or double consecrate, then he doesn't have lethal. So Ecop might have to go for the Hail Mary play and just go for face. But Ecop traditionally has been someone who goes for the more safe play, so you might see him use combo just to clear the board.
I'm just looking at the combo here. What's the 14 for the combo plus 8 and does he come up with lethal here and we've just missed it? I think we have.
Have we missed it?
I think we just missed an exact lethal. Yeah, Fenteris has missed it as well. He set himself up. Looking at Ecop's face seconds ago, he kind of rolled his eyes. I think he realized at that point that he had exact lethal, having been staring at the screen for a little while. And Fenteris didn't realize when he set himself up in that position that he was opening himself up for lethal there as well. Everyone missed that, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty infamous for to help me with that one, Callum.
I'm not that good at it either. So,
well, it's basic math. I to be honest, see if he was at 26 or 28, and it's not really something you think about too. And obviously,
25, wasn't he?
20 around there. Well, he had it. Like, did he have it exactly, or was he one over?
I think he might have actually been 2 over by the end of it, but it was.
So he had it. So it's 14, right? And he had the 6/6 and the 2/2 on the board, so that's an extra 8 plus 4. Is 12, so he had 26.
26, yeah.
So he had 26 damage.
I blame Fenteris for us missing that lethal because his play in that last turn did not suggest that he was accidentally setting himself up for lethal. Well,
it's definitely not something you think about when you're that high. It's like, oh right, there's this 6/6 in the board can actually do like a ton of damage. So like, he probably just got accustomed just like ignoring it, and he was ahead for the entire time. But yeah, definitely a blunder on our part to miss that. And
a massive misplay for Fenteris.
Sorry?
Play for Fenteris, as you said, was in the ascendancy, was dominated, left himself open, just even giving over that 2/2 from the Sylvanas, which I heralded as a sign of his confidence, was clearly his downfall. And that Shade of Naxxramas, of course, doing Paladin of Fenteris knocked out here. He does have the Rogue and the Mage left. What would you Fenteris into the Druid?
Definitely the Mage. Mage kind of works like Hunter or Zoo. It's like standard. I'm assuming it's Mech Mage. It's Mech Mage. If it's Freeze Mage, then I would go Rogue. But if he's going for Mech Mage, then it basically works like Druid's typical foils, which was Zoo before it kind of took a fall, and then also Hunter. So Mage if it's Mech Mage. But yeah, going back to the last match, I did mention going for the Hail Mary and going for face and just seeing how much damage you could have, and just like hoping he doesn't have healing, or a way to have lethal calculate the damage. So
we messed up, guys.
Yeah.
We did it, boys.
But it's to be fair, the play I suggested ended up being correct. Just I didn't realize it was actually lethal. So,
correct, it was.
Yeah, into the game we have backwards cards for the Mage, and we can see a lot of text. That's what we can see.
But I'm looking at these cards here. A 5/5 and a 4/3. That's a Kirintor Mage. I was just about to say. Yes, this might be some sort of secrets mage.
Is that a Sylvanas?
Yeah. Oh, there we go. So we've got the cards over there.
All right. Flip through
the intrigue there of the Kirintor mage. But yeah, it was 4/3 that could be in a Mech Mage. That was a mage card. sorry, it was a rare card rather than a mage card, but the Sylvanas Mana Worm. Mana Worm is a card that I see on ladder quite a lot playing against Mech Mage, but I've never personally played a Mech Mage with Mana Worm in it. What is your opinion on that variant of the Mage deck?
Well, first of all, I don't think this might not even be mech made because we haven't seen a single mech yet. I also think that the spectator needs to rejoin the game because there's cards missing from Ecop's hand and there's arrows going over the place. So, yeah.
We'll just figure that out there for a second. But yeah, obviously it doesn't. I actually don't think there probably is Mech Mage. I think it's probably some kind of mid-range secrets mage or something. But the Mana Worm is a card which generally I see, every so often on ladder, but it's not something that I consider as part of any mage deck that we would maybe predict, other than perhaps this crazy secrets mage. But well, there we go. We're a few turns in now, so you can see a Sludge Belcher up for the mage, and it's going to be an innervated Dr. Boom for Ecop.
All right, so we've seen a lot of hero powers, it looks like, for Ecop. I'm guessing he took out the Kirin Tor Mage with a Wrath, and he's just been hero powering this entire time. Yeah, he had that innervate earlier that we saw, and yeah, interesting deck by Fantiers. I haven't seen anything like this for a long time, other than like rank 14. But yeah, he's got the Sorcerer's Apprentice, he's got the Water Elemental in there. I am really confused right now.
I mean, we do have the deck lists. I just hadn't looked at them because I don't like to look at them too much because I like the surprise. But
oh yeah, well, I'm just the guest commentator, so I like to keep things a secret.
Yeah, so we're going to see probably the Keeper of the Grove come down on Sylvanas here. Feels like a pretty sensible play, and then the Booms will go where they may.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that he silenced it first instead of just throwing the Boom Bot into the 1/1. I guess the reason why he did it generally is because if he didn't silence it now, he had nothing else to play. He couldn't really play any of the other minions without automatically give a good like a good steal. So I guess it makes sense. But he could have seen, I guess, where the bombs went first.
He's looking at. Okay, so he's going to be able to. Okay, so he's going to freeze the Dr. Boom. I thought he was going to try and kill it off. But uses the Sorcerer's Apprentice to get the Frostbolt out for 1 mana. And
yeah, so I think Ecop's definitely in the same position that we are, trying to figure out what's going on. Should be doing. Yeah, he's reaching for the Sylvanas, but I think it would be a good idea to see where this Boombot lands first before he does anything.
Would you run into the Sylvanas to see if you can kill it?
I think I would run it into the Sorcerer's Apprentice. Well, maybe. Oh, I guess. Well, if he was playing Sylvanas, I would run into the Sorcerer's Apprentice so that you could hero power it down. But I guess he's just gonna not do any RNG. He's gonna let the bombs land where they may for Fantiris' side and just get more damage to face. It makes sense, It's like why should I go for some random RNG thing when I can just get one more damage to face, which might make a difference in the long run for getting that combo off.
There's a counter spell,
which is a really bad card to see right now because Ecop can just coin it away. But yeah, so we see a lot of actually pressure coming in from Fantiris, but I'm not sure that it's supposed to operate. So I'm not. Yeah. Okay, he didn't play the counter spell. Anyway, so yeah, without knowing how this deck is supposed to work, it's hard to know if this is a good thing for Fantiris. Like, obviously putting pressure on can be good, but I don't know. Say for instance you're playing, like a control warrior. Like a lot of times, if you put early pressure on, sometimes, but sometimes that's not really the way you win. You kind of just war of attrition and your legendaries win out. So I'm not really quite sure if the pressure that Fantiris is putting on is actually, indicative that he's winning the game. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you mean. He's looking at that counter spell in hand there. It's going to come down. If you're Ecop, are you expecting a counter spell?
if I'm ECOP, I have no idea what's happening. I think probably the first thing that he would expect is mirror entity. So he might play out the coin right here, but he might. Well, okay, he's reaching for the force nature would be really, really bad. So yeah, I would expect him to go for the Keeper of the Grove just to test it out first.
Oh.
And once that's negated, I think he'll try to coin something out, or try to use the coin to see if that's what it is. And then from there, maybe use force in nature, and then go for like the duplicate and the scientist. Like that would probably be the progression that I would go for. I think is like, okay, try to see. Well, I think this is kind of risky because it could be duplicate, and you really don't want to give someone with no cards another Azure Drake.
You don't want to give them 2 Azure Drakes on turn 10.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a great way for Fenteris to get back into it, but he's
going to kill his own Sylvanas. Interesting.
Smooth. He's going to be hoping he does get one of the water elementals. Definitely the better 2 out of 3 there. And he's going to coin to test the counterspell. Okay, so he is going to be the counterspell. And
okay, so maybe he knows something about this. Maybe he's seen this deck before, or maybe he somehow got information about it, and knows that there's not going to be any duplicates in it. Oh, but there's a duplicate. So definitely pretty risky to kill that Azure Drake, because getting a couple of Azure Drakes in your hand is one way to get right back into the game. Fenteris got some damage onto ECOP, but the one thing he doesn't have is cards at all.
I guess once you've seen, and that's actually the mirror entity up now, but once you've seen a Mad Scientist and a Kirin Mage, you've got to imagine that this deck has. So if you're ECOP, you got to test for everything, haven't you?
Yeah, it's actually also we missed the first part of the game. It's possible that he played a duplicate earlier and he thought that wouldn't be what it is. He thought that it was unlikely for it to be the second duplicate.
Indeed. Well, no cards for Fenteris here.
This is a smart play by ECOP to go with the Big Game Hunter. Because, yeah, exactly. Like you said, Fenteris has no cards in hand. And, ECOP figures that it could be this exact combination here and duplicate. So it's like, okay, I'm going to give you 2 Big Game Hunters, and it's much, much better than giving him any of the cards in the rest of his hand. Like, even the Harrison Jones would be, a reasonable minion to give your opponent.
Who knows if
reasonable for Fenteris' sake. Anyway, sorry.
Who knows if ECOP even has any big game targets in this deck? He's certainly not drawn into any of them this game. Did we see a Dr. Boom last game? I'm not sure that we did.
Yeah. No. Okay. So Fenteris had the Dr. Boom.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely.
Dr. Yeah. So ECOP already played the Dr. Boom on turn.
Oh yeah, that's right. ECOP already played the Dr. Boom. That's right. As far as looking from ECOP's perspective, it's better to get the tempo lead right now, and then you can deal with a bigger creature later. So that's why it's fine. Just play the Big Game Hunter out with no battle cry, just so you can get a really, really good turn right now.
And Fenteris just throwing both those Big Game Hunters out there. Maybe he has one of his own, but he's thinking about fireballing the 5/5 as well, and once again going down to no cards.
Yeah, it's just kind of like damn if you do, damn if you don't. He maybe figures that he can get some damage with these Big Game Hunters, but they don't trade off. We see a Zombie Chow, which is kind of like a nod for being a little bit anti-aggro. But yeah, ECOP in a dominating position, he just basically has to not die. And for Fenteris to draw reasonable and not, have God draws from here on out.
He needs Fenteris to not draw something like a Pyroblast.
Yeah, he needs to. Yeah, exactly. Well, even a Pyroblast actually would win the game. And if ECOP saw Fenteris start pinging his face, I think he would start hero powering. But I think Fenteris would have to start drawing like legendaries back to back to back in order to come back into this game.
You see a lot of tech here for ECOP. Obviously, we see the Harrison Jones and the MC tech, and as you said, the Zombie Chow. Certainly equipped to deal with a lot of options here, but I don't think he was really geared up for any tech for this deck. I don't know if we're going to be seeing a Kazan Mystic.
Yeah, I think we're kind of seeing why you can't just put a deck together with like solid cards and have it just work. In the case of Fenteris, that's really sad that he can't play the Dr. Boom.
1 card.
1 mana off. It's just you kind of had to have synergy with your cards, and all these like solid cards like water elemental and Sorcerer's Apprentice and all the nice secrets. It's just not paying off for Fanteris right now.
Yep, and D2 is going to be able to just start the beat down here. He's going to have lethal next turn with the Druid of the Claw.
Apparently, I'm beating Fanteris right now. I'm just joking. He said D2 is going to start beating him.
Sorry, Ecop's going to start beating him down here. Mirror Inti is going to come down on this from
Mirror Inti would be awesome for this Zombie Chow right now. So,
but Ecop is going to have enough. He's going to charge the Druid of the Claw.
Yeah, it doesn't
Mirror
matter.
Entity doesn't matter, and Ecop's going to tie up the series 1-1.
Is he? I thought he's up to.
Sorry, yes, so he's going to go up to 2-0 with his Druid deck. We mentioned before the Druid is a deck which can just run away with the series in 3-0, and it's going to be down to the Rogue of Fenteris to be able to deal with this Druid. Do you think that the Rogue is a good deck for beating Druid?
Yeah, I think it's almost like a 50-50 matchup. It's kind of like the old matchup between Druid and Miracle Rogue. I think that the Zombie Chow won't be a very good card against Rogue. It's just going to kind of be a dead card where Rogue's eventually going to kill it and gain some health. But other than that, yeah, also the MC Tech will be a dead card, but the Harrison Johns will help. But the fact that the Rogue has to go through, most importantly, the Rogue has to go through Warrior. It's a kind of an even. Obviously, it would be pretty even against Rogue, depending on what tech cards they have in there. And it's going to be an underdog against Warrior. So, we're looking at pretty long odds for Fenteris to come back in this.
Yeah, it's that Rogue versus Warrior matchup is the one that he's really going to be dreading at this point. But he's going to have to get past the Druid deck that looks, as I said, very consistent, very, very, very strong in really all formats. And Ecop has been playing it to perfection so far.
Exactly. And I kind of want to question Fenteris' decision to go with Mage that last game, because I'm not really sure that Mage actually beats Druid. So, I guess you can count on the mirror entities to, get some copies off. But other than that, it was just kind of like solid cards, but not anything that necessarily just beats Druid. I guess Druid has a hard time dealing with like larger minions because it doesn't have the removal, but they definitely have the big minions, and if they're not pressured, they can get some good trades off because they're pretty efficient.
And before we get into this game, you can see the boxes below the players' faces there. Apparently, that is their. They were asked what their catchphrase was, and we present them to you without comment. I don't even know. Ecops is some kind of German dog, I guess, probably a German Shepherd. But we're going to get into the game here, and it's going to be Fenteris on the Rogue versus Ecop on the Druid. Don't need to see the game to know that.
Yep. I think Fenteris' catchphrase has to do with maybe the because definitely that last mage, it's a lot of us were confused. Only us, but people in the chat as well.
Yeah, it's going to be it'll be interesting to see. Maybe talk to him afterwards and find out what the thought process was behind that deck. Maybe get a little bit of a closer look at the deck list. But we're going to see a pretty clunky hand for Ecop in terms of what he can do before turn 3. He's going to be looking to get that shade out, but after that, he's going to be maybe waiting for a Harrison target. He's going to need to draw into some of his better minions. A bit like a Keeper of the Grove.
It looks kind of okay, actually, because, I was going to say he has 2 chances to draw into a 4-drop. His Keeper is okay. He can Wrath and, Hero Power this 3-3 right here, which is kind of fun. You don't always want to be doing that. But in this case, it's okay, because you're basically allowing your shade to grow, and you're gaining a lead that way, even if you're not putting anything new on the board. Looking over at Fenteris' hand, it's not anything to write home about either. He can Blade Flurry this shade away, but that costs 2 cards. He's got a sprint now, which does he have a prep? Do you see a prep? No, I don't see a prep.
No.
And if he would have to do it now in order to, kind of get rid of cards in his hand.
Yeah.
Or just to not overdraw. That's what I meant to say. So it looks like he's just gonna Shiv and Redagger, which is, looks like Ecop's definitely in a better position at this point.
Another turn 5 Doctor Boom.
Yeah, like you said, his hand looked clunky, but all you need to fix that is 1 innervate. So
Exactly, and Ecop gets his second turn 5 Doctor Boom in a row in the last 2 games.
Okay, how much mana does he have? He has 5 mana. He doesn't have an Innervate though, which is he could. Can he clear this board? I don't think he can.
You meant a prep
without
rather than innovate.
Yeah, sorry, prep.
If he were to be running innovate in his rogue deck, I would have some different question.
It's the rogue version of Innervate's prep. So he can. Is he 1 mana off? Being able to clear the board, I think.
He's gonna use the.
Oh, he can. Well, yeah, okay. He can actually. Okay, he can clear. Actually, no, he can't clear the board. He just needs 7 damage to the base. That's what he's gonna do right now. So he's gonna hit the 7/7, and he's gonna clear the board this way. That's probably his best play. The only problem is he's taking a lot of damage. It's annoying for Ecop because he basically used 2 cards to deal with Ekop's 3, but this gives Ekop a tempo lead. Now he can just play as a Drake. He has the first play. He draws a card. Things are going well, and that's a pretty big draw. So
sure.
Ekop looks to be back into this game.
Or not back.
Look, he looks to be in control of this game right now.
Is it going to be a prep? Yeah, it's going to be a prep sprint here for Fenteris. He's going to look for some answers. Gets an Assassin's Blade, which would be a horrible target for the Harrison Jones. Jones has actually come out so far, so maybe I'm just trying to figure out whether or not Fenteris knows that Ecop runs Harrison Jones.
Yeah, that would be pretty devastating if that gets Harrison Jones away. Particularly if he puts a Deadly Poison or Tinker's Oil on it, that would just be horrible. Kind of fortunate to get that Eviscerate to clear away the 4/4 so that he doesn't take any further damage. But Ecop's just piling on the pressure by putting this 5/5 on the board and also behind that drawing cards. And we see a lot of actual damage without even the combo in his hand. We see double swipe, which is a lot of pressure from Ecop's side.
Yeah, very, very close to a lethal situation for Ecop already. This has the Savage War as well. Going to be a Coin Deadly Poison, I think. Dagger Deadly. But it doesn't have the mana. Gets the backstab in to put the Ancient War down to 2 health, but that doesn't feel good at all.
Yeah, so Ecop looking at this, he probably figures that Fenteris doesn't have a way to deal with the Ancient War very easily. So he's just gonna opt to kill this Azure Drake off, which is you basically always want to do against a rogue because that extra spell damage can work wonders for them. Get that extra 5 damage in, and Ecop looks to be taking this game pretty soon unless Fenteris can go nuts with some sort of crazy Blade Flurry play. What does he have in his hand? He has so many cards. No Blade.
He doesn't have Blade Flurry. Yeah, so I'm thinking I don't see how Fenteris can actually win the game at this point. I think it's probably going to be over next turn, even if he's able to clear. Yeah, because he can use.
And that's really painful to start off with a Fen because it costs. He's just gonna go ahead and sap it. Interesting. I was thinking it might have been worth it to backstab right off the bat, so that he gets the first part of the shredder gone. But yeah, looks like Fenteris' strategy is just get something on the board that can Tinker's Oil and just go for the win in either 1 or 2 turns. Because that's basically what he has to do. Otherwise, he knows he's on the clock because Ecop's going to draw in a combo at some point.
So that's the swipe in hand there. Ecop's still actually very close to lethal here. Does have the swipe, the Savage Roar, and Hero Power, which would be 7 damage. So he's 1 off of that lethal.
Yeah, 1 damage off lethal. If he had Druid Claw, that would be lethal. Obviously, if he had Force Nature, that'd be lethal.
Is he considering okay, so he's going to go for Harrison Jones here. I was thinking he might go for the swipe, Keeper the Grove.
I kind of like this play, actually, because... Oh, he's going to... Sure, that's That's a kind of dangerous play, in my opinion. Because from here, Fenteris can definitely get some crazy damage in with Tinkers having that pressure on the table, or having any minion on the table, really. So a little bit risky by Ecop. I think I would have played the safer play since being so far ahead and basically being able to draw into lethal any second now. And even just the Harrison Jones, and if he's using Eviscerate on the Harrison Jones, then he's not using it in the face. But I digress. Ecop has no fear. He's just gonna play out his minions, And but anyway, going back to the Harrison, I like the Harrison Jones play, and people might think it's a waste, but at this point he's so far ahead, and it's like surprisingly annoying. It probably has to do with Ekup's experience with playing with Rogue, because he knows how annoying it is to have to expend an extra 2 mana just to re-equip his dagger.
Well, it's going to be Backstab and Deadly Poison coming down for Venturis and the Violet Teacher to build up a huge board for something.
If he face tanks it, the game is over. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, I did think you would do it.
And that's game.
That is game with a swipe and the charge. Charge Druid of the Claw. Again, second game in a row. That's going to give him what he needs. He's going to go for the Savage Roar because he can. There's something satisfying about finishing off your opponent with your own face.
Technically more damage because he could have hero powered for the extra one, but sure. But yeah, doesn't really matter. Ekup takes it on 3-0, showing, proving again, I should say, how strong he is of a player. You know, just up and comers.
I'm proving how strong Druid is as well, as 3-0ing with that class. Finteris is not out of it yet. In fact, one of the games that took place off stream already today, Finteris defeated Dart 3-1. So Finteris, he's going to have to beat Phone Tap in his final chance of going through. And we're going to look ahead. Well, the next game we're going to be bringing you is Ecop versus Dart, which is our featured game of the day. The two big names in Group A, if you will. And Dart's going to need to win this if he wants to stay alive, having lost to Finteris.
Yeah, exactly. So, wait, go over that again. What's the records of every player in this group so far?
So Finteris has beaten Dart 3-1, and Ecop has beaten Finteris 3-0. So
that's the only. I don't have anything else. Okay.
Nope, that's all we have so far. So we're going to be looking ahead to Ecop versus Dart. I think we're going to take a very short break, and we'll be back with you in just a couple of minutes to bring you, as I said, that game of the day between the two big names in Group A, Ecop versus Dart.
In all honesty, I knew when I first saw you that one day you'd be holding my hand. No twist of fate could separate you from me. No. We watched the fairies floating in the sky. We watched the light fade dark outside, and I knew, yeah, I knew, yeah, I knew. But love always burns through everything. Love always fades into nothing. Oh, it fades out and fades in. But love always burns. Are they one and the same? Am I the one to blame? Can't help but need something more. Don't know if I'm happy or just bored. Are they one and the same? Am I the one to blame? That's life.